make a lot of the things that I do contingent on the age of people that I'm dealing with, because I realize that very young people haven't had a lot of experience with many things in their lives. And so, again, if you have any kind of age on you at all, if you're over 30 probably, you've taken a loan for, say, for example, a car. Now, looking back on that, if you're probably over the age of 40, maybe over the age of 50, it depends on the individual. You're looking at that and you're going, why on earth did I do that when I was younger? I could have saved a lot of money if I would just bought an old beater and fixed it up, right? So it's understandable that a lot of people who take student loans because they're quite young really don't understand the pitfalls of the activities that they're getting themselves involved in. Well, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, by the way. I'm Kurt, and today is Thursday, the 8th of April of 2021. Happy to have you here today, whether it's on Rumble, YouTube, or the podcast. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to talk about student loan forgiveness. We're going to talk about student loans, and we're going to talk about the idea of student loan forgiveness. And here's the thing. I get that you may have taken a student loan and that you may regret. You may be having buyer's remorse over having done that. And I get that you failed to make some strong considerations. And I'm here to tell you that I blame your parents in part for that, if you did that. Because they should have taught you better. I'm not saying if you're 40 and you took a student loan, you maybe didn't know better. But if you were 18, 25, between 18 and 25, let's say, and you took a student loan and your parents didn't warn you against it. Look, my second youngest, my youngest isn't school, the youngest that would have been able to go to college. So my second youngest, right? I told specifically, don't take student loans. They did anyway, as far as I know, and I'm quite sure they're regretting that fact now. And part of the reason for that regret is simple. It is that person is likely never to make, or questionably ever to make, enough money to pay back those that student loan or those student loans in any reasonable fashion. They might come to the point where they totally, aside from their degree in underwater basket weaving, and obviously that's not what it was, but the point is, from the perspective of profitability, it is not a high profit field for most people who undertake it. Okay, the thing that they were talking about doing, whether that's what ended up happening, I have to admit I sort of lost touch with that, and I could get into the details. But what's important to realize is, if you go out there and you set yourself up with student loan, unless you're going into some field that you're pretty sure you're going to make decent amounts of money in, or you've made some special arrangement, it's your parents' fault to some degree if you got that loan between 18 and about 25 or 27, because they should have told you not to. Well, it's your fault, obviously, ultimately, because you made the decision yes or no. But when it comes down to it, if they didn't tell you, if they didn't advise you of the pitfalls of doing that, it's kind of their fault. Look, it's fair to say that I didn't go to school because I had no idea what I wanted to be. That hasn't stopped a lot of people from going to college, though. Feeling like they had to even, and going to college. Even those who know what they want out of life have no idea whether or not they'll ever be able to pay back the student loan that they take on when they get themselves into college. For me, when I work, I make pretty good money, and do something where most of my peers are have degrees, right? It took me longer to get where I wound up. Part of that was indecision, and part of it was acquiring the requisite skills. Even so, for many people, they think they need degrees, and I'm just going to tell you it's not true. You want to be a doctor? Okay, you probably need a degree. You want to be a lawyer? Well, you at least need to pass the bar, and that probably means you need to get the appropriate learning from a legal school. I hate to say it, but it's probably true. You want to be an architect? Here's where the lines begin to fuzz just a little bit. There are likely people out there acting as architects who are doing so because of a lifetime of skills and abilities learned, and they may or may not be degreed. You want to be a software developer? No, you don't need a degree. It will pave your way to get at least a associate's degree, preferably maybe even a baccalaureate degree, right? But that's all it will do is make it so that you can earn faster. It's all it's going to do for you. And the thing about it is, you need to realize that if you get that degree, you will have to pay it back. Okay, and it's particularly true for student loans. This is particularly true for student loans, that you're going to have to do that. But here's what I'm saying to you. Part of the reason that I did not go to school was, in fact, that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. That's true. But I could have gotten a degree that was a more general degree in that instance, had I decided to do so. There's another piece of this process for me. I looked, even back when I would have gone to school, at what it cost to go to school, and I said to myself, based on my earning potential at this point in time, I can't afford to pay for it as I go. And looking at the loan that you end up with, saddled with, by the time it's all said and done, I can't afford to take on that amount of debt and feel like I'm ever, or at least anytime soon, going to put myself in a good position. Look, I'm one of those people who, when they went to buy a house, spent less than $60,000 on the house that they bought. My neighborhood is upscaled pretty substantially since I moved into the house that I moved into, and I'm here to tell you that it was not a nice neighborhood not too long before I moved there. Not very long before I got there. It was not a nice neighborhood. 20 years for sure. 10 years in reality, it wasn't a very nice neighborhood. Today, it's better, but it's still not great. It's still not a fantastic place to live. Nonetheless, I spent very little money on that. And when they started to tell me a car loan was for $60,000 or $40,000 worth of car, I went, you guys are out of your mind. If I buy a clunker that'll run relatively reliably, I can go ahead and get various things fixed up on that clunker when I have the money to do so, and I'll be a heck of a lot better off than I would if I took the loan that you guys put me up for. Well, I took the same approach with college, and it hurt me some, I'll tell you, it did. Because I had to gain skills and I had to gain experience before people were willing to say, or what's the term they like to use in their job descriptions, or equivalent experience, right? I had one of my earlier programming jobs that I did when I really, really embraced programming like I should have done a long time earlier, where the guy who wrote the spec for it said, you have to have at least master's degree in some IT related degree or equivalent experience. And he counted me as being in that place. And that's how I got the job. So I could tell people if I want right now, I have the equivalent of master's degree experience according to a university professor, university teacher, lecturer, whatever you want to call him. So I can say that. But the point is, I looked back at that, or I looked at that expense, and I realized by the time I was going to get into that, might have gotten into that situation, which was much later than many people, I can't afford this. I can't afford it. And I'm here to tell you that most of the people that I see that are getting that degree and taking on that student debt in order to do it, they can't afford it either. Now, maybe at some point in their future, they'll be able to pay it off. But the thing is, in the meantime, they're going to struggle as a result of having it. Should it be forgiven? In my opinion, the answer is no. What needs to happen is parents need to teach their children fiscal responsibility, and they need to make it very clear to them what happens is not just that you declare bankruptcy or you end up with this, saddled with this huge inordinate amount of debt or whatever, but that you actually do yourself and society harm by not being fiscally responsible. This is my problem today, literally today. I'm still fighting my fiscal irresponsibility as a young man. It isn't about forgiving the debt. No, they should learn to pay it, and in the process of doing so, they will become smarter about what they do fiscally in future. All right, I'm about at the end of my time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. As I've said, this is a Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Thursday, the 8th of April of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Friday, the 9th of April of 2021. That's the end of the work week for most folks. There are those folks who work on the weekend who, as I say, I very much appreciate what you do because it means that I can go out and do things that I want. I thank you, whether you joined me on Rumble, on the podcast, or YouTube. Thank you for doing so, and thank you for listening through the video. Remember that you can like on YouTube or give me a positive Rumble on Rumble if you like what you see in what you're seeing. I'm not getting a lot of hits these days, and that's just going to have to be okay. I'm going to keep plowing on along. Again, today the subject was student loan forgiveness, and tomorrow's subject is going to be topsy-turvy, and that's going to be an interesting one. You'll find I'm talking about government, but you'll see very quickly what it is that I'm saying, and you'll realize, hey, wait, people have this backwards. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap this up because I'm over my 10-minute mark, and I like I said, I'm trying to make it so that you don't have to listen to a bunch of stuff in addition to that, because I know people are restricted in the amount of time that they can spend on things. Hope that you're having a good day. Hope that your weekend ends up being a good one. I should be able to get a new daily summation out again tomorrow, as I said, subject being topsy-turvy on that one. And hopefully we will see you when I get that daily summation out again on tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video is recorded on Thursday, the 8th of April of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.